Hello, my regulars, and welcome new listeners to the Reese on the Regular podcast. Today, I'm excited to have my first male guest on here, solo. I'm here with Jalen.
Hi, everybody. My name is Jalen Lowe. I'm a man of many passions and interests, a family man. I like to travel. I'm an entrepreneur and an IT professional. I'm from Massachusetts, and hopefully we'll change that soon. Yeah, happy holidays, and thank you for having me, Reese. I'm really excited.
And because he's a man of many passions, I wanted to bring him on here today to talk about figuring out our lives, because I feel like we're both in a very similar situation of just feeling overwhelmed and the pressures of today's society to have it all figured out. And I feel like no one really has it all figured out, even though that's what it might seem like online. So we're going to talk about a whole lot of things to do with that, and I'm really excited to dive into it. So I feel like one of the biggest struggles people have is planning for the future versus living in the moment. I know I personally do. Would you say that you lean more towards one or the other, or do you kind of go back and forth with that?
I think it's very important to consider what the activity is. That's where I start. It's like, what am I actually doing? And how can I control the activity rather than thinking so far ahead? And I zoom out, but still stay present, making sure that you're still physically mindful of whatever activity that you're doing, and like assessing like, hey, how is this going to impact me right now if I'm not here, or if I can let my mind wander a bit into what this will look like 5 years, 1 year.
I feel like if you let your mind wander too much, you're not living in the moment, obviously, but then time just flies, and then you look back and you're like, where did the time go? Like, you don't really accomplish anything for the future that way. So I feel like that's honestly been like a huge struggle of mine. I'm always like so worried about like what's next, and I don't live in the moment too much. It's really a hard balance. So do you have any advice for that aside from kind of just zooming out that lens?
Oh man, I think if I did, I wouldn't be here.
I know. Honestly, we're someone needs to come and help us.
Yeah. It's like definitely like a sink or swim situation. I think it's very important for me to just always take a breath, take a moment, and like you said, it doesn't do you any justice if you're not present. It won't get you any closer. It just keeps you further, in my mind.
Right.
I think it's really about the like, how much risk are you willing to accept? And is anybody's life in danger? It's like, start there.
If not, we can take a minute.
I feel like you can really just take a minute to think. It's like, is this, how deep is this?
Exactly.
How deep does this go, and how deep do I want to get? And does this align with me fully? And is this what I'm going to choose to do with my time? It's the most valuable currency. We don't have much. And I saw this video one time, and it was this guy saying, you have 25 summers, you have 25 summers left, you have 25 Christmas left. I was like, oh my gosh, I threw my phone. I was like, I'm going outside, I'm going to see my family. Like, it was a reality check to be like, it's limited, and how can I make the most out of this moment?
Right.
That's where my mind first goes to. And then you look back on like a year ago, and you're like, oh, I wish I did this, or I wish I did that. So I think like another piece of advice is like taking note. And actually looking back on the notes.
Right. Honestly, I think the only way that you can kind of overcome that like balance is looking back and like reflecting on it, because most of the time you don't even realize you're doing it. Like we were just talking about the fact that I am like wrapping up my finals at school, and I feel like in my freshman, sophomore years, like I didn't realize I was just like stressing out so much about that type of stuff. Whereas like I kind of look back now and I'm like, it didn't matter that much, you know? And like now being a senior, I kind of am taking the time to like slow down a little bit more and be present in the moment. And I kind of wish I did that before, because then all there's left to do is look back and say, I wish. So it's important to just kind of learn that over time, but it is hard to find like an overall solution for it. I feel like it's something a lot of people battle with.
Yeah. No, I think it's a war. It's
just
a
war.
battle. I think
it's
every day is something different, and it goes into the other part of like all this external stimulation, and you can get so overwhelmed so quickly by all of the thoughts and all the things happening, and it's like, what am I going to do right now that will make me feel okay with what I accomplished today or tomorrow? And that's how I start small, and then take the elephant one bite at a time.
Do you feel like there's anything specific that you find yourself like planning for the future more so than other things?
I think when it comes to my future, I think about my family and like what that means to me, and that's usually where I start on anything I do. It's like, okay, family is the most important thing to me, so how will this impact me and them in that situation? I think when I think about my future, it's like, how can I have the best future with my family and maybe my future family, and who knows what that brings, but
Right.
overall, that's where I start.
And I feel like there's different stages of it too. Like obviously, like in high school, I was the same way. I was like thinking about the future. I've always been that type of person, but it wasn't like, oh, like a family and like a future career. It was more so college things at that time.
Yeah.
And now like coming out of college, it's like, okay, like am I moving out? Like what's my job look like? This and that. And then it goes into the family stuff. So it gets more complicated as you get older, I feel, which is a little stressful. That would be my main thing right now is like career path, living situation, all the good stuff.
I think that's why it's contrast, because it's like I didn't have the same experience as going to college. I didn't have the traditional experience. So for me, like being in the corporate world already for that time has given me like this sense of reality where I'm like, okay, this will probably always be here.
Mm-hmm.
And as I realized, like I had a coworker one time mention it, and they were like, you spend 40 hours here a week. You spend more time with us than your family. And it like all sunk in me. And I was like,
it's like a big reality check there. Like,
are you kidding me? So for me, it's like finding balance in that when I only have a limited time if I choose to stay in this corporate world. And like, how can I maximize that? And how can I make the most out of the moments I'm not here?
Right.
And like the future is like kind of escaping that for me, is like, I don't want that to be my like total pathway. And I don't think anybody's really made for that. So
no, there has to be a balance there too.
Yeah.
And I do want you to share with everyone just a little bit about like what you actually do in terms of like corporate world, you know?
I'm an IT professional, so it's mostly in the IT support world. And I work right now at a consulting firm in the IT support. And I've been doing that kind of work for the past 4 years now, since 2020.
That's crazy to think about, actually.
Yeah, it flew by.
Was it a lot different during COVID, obviously?
It was, COVID was a good experience to learn. For me, it gave me that isolation to use it as a chance to educate myself in my own environment. And then also like learning how, you know, the whole world shifted remote work and technology advanced, and kind of that was like a platform to really do anything you want.
Yeah.
Getting into IT and being in like the business world and seeing how a business functions from like the internal side, and it really sparked my interest for like business. And I never thought I was into business, but and then so I was like, well, with the balances of the 40 hours a week, and I really want to spend time with my family, and I have all these passions with music and traveling, and I'm lucky that one of the companies I stayed at for a while like had a unlimited time off policy, so I could really globe charter.
Yep.
So that gave me a kind of a taste of the freedom that I wanted, and I just woke up one day and I was like, I'm gonna start a business, and I had no idea what the business was gonna be,
but I'm doing it.
But I'm doing it. Like, this seems like the only way that I'll be able to get what I want. And so I did that about March 2023. I started as a website design company, and it's kind of developed into more as a business automation and website design still. So like integrating all of your small business functions into one place that is easily accessible and easily to use for business owners and like myself.
Like, that's awesome. Like, I just, that's just so cool to hear. I feel like when people want to start a business, you can go so many ways with that. And so that's just, it's cool that that's what you got into. I think that's awesome. Do you feel like during that time you struggled with any other people's expectations or your own expectations that were kind of telling you, you know, go the traditional path, things like that? Yeah.
I think the hardest part of like being young and being passionate and wanting something is outside expectations and that pressure. And I think the biggest piece of advice I would say is really keep it to yourself until you have a product.
Yeah.
Because if you let people's thoughts infiltrate your process, it's only going to make it harder for you to understand your vision. And I think you have to have vision to get somewhere. If you're just running and you don't even know where you're running.
Yeah. If you don't have it figured out yet and you're already sharing these ideas that are going to maybe, you know, get dropped down right away from other people, it's like you didn't really give yourself a chance to fully think it through. And
whenever you go to somebody with something, it's like this comparison will come in, and that seems like the thief of joy, and then that can kill your passion or your motivation. And it's like, okay, that just got shot down. Now I have to rethink this to that person's standard rather than what my initial thought was. So, yeah, I think that was my biggest challenge. But, of course, family's been there to
Of
support
course.
me. I always appreciate, like, honest feedback, and
That's
I
great.
appreciate opinions. But
Yeah, because I feel like a lot of people aren't as fortunate to have, like, a supportive family or supportive friends who,
Yeah.
you know, trust that they're doing what's best for them.
Yeah.
A lot of people just want to go that traditional route, so...
And I think there's beauty in that, too. I think
of course
stability,
there is.
like, is huge in this world of everything going on. And I think that helped me understand what I wanted by having, okay, 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. This is what I'll be doing, and I can develop this career. And I still am, like, interested in that, but...
And you're still young. So we might have 10 different careers before we die, you know? You never know. And that's why you really can't plan for the future. Looking forward, do you see yourself still being someone kind of always planning your future out, or do you feel like at a certain point in your life you think you're going to have everything figured out?
I think it's okay to have a plan. I think it's good to have a plan, but I think it's important on how you adapt to if the plan doesn't go to expectations.
Exactly.
I think it's like my goal right now is to learn how to develop a plan, try my best to follow it, but be okay if maybe it doesn't go the exact way that I expected, but just stay open-minded, and that's where I'm at right now. I think that helps keep you present because you're not upholding yourself to these crazy expectations, and you have these like attainable steps you can take and just really take it day by day. Because, yeah, you can plan as much as you want, but really, like...
I know. Does anything really ever go, like, perfectly to plan?
Right.
Not really. I mean, I've still been extremely satisfied with how my life's played out, and it really hasn't gone to plan. The school I chose, for instance, was totally not even the plan, but I love it. And, like, just small things like that, you don't know until you jump into it. So you can't plan too much, but I agree. It's good to have a foundation, I would say.
Like some sort of vision.
Some vision.
I like vision is the word. I'm like, I don't really use the word plan. I say, this is my vision, and this is what I'm going to do today that might get me closer to this place.
So, like, right now, what is your vision for yourself?
Beach house, Miami. No, I'm just kidding.
We're traveling.
I'm on a plane. I'm gone.
I know.
My dream is to be in Spain.
Okay.
I went there. I have I call them, they're my family now.
I love that you are saying this, because anytime everyone's like, what's your dream? I'm like, Italy. And like, I went there, and the people, it's just like you have this urge, like you've got to get back. Like that was your place.
Yeah. Shout out Benavente.
Who's that? A friend?
That's the town
Oh,
all my friends live in. And, so
that's awesome.
That's like the goal, to get my family into Europe and see that whole continent.
When did you go there, and how long were you there for?
So I went the first time 2018,
Okay.
and then I did like a study abroad there, and I stayed for like a month, and met all of them, and it was a beautiful experience. And then I went back again for my 21st birthday.
Wait, I feel like I didn't know that. That's awesome.
Yeah, and then that's when I really like felt so connected to this place that I'm not from, but it was really the community and people that brought me together with them, and I've never felt that in America, which is crazy. But obviously I have my best friends and my people.
Of course. There's people here, you know, that I come home to, but something about that, it's like a second home.
Yeah, it's
you know,
like
the people
really
there,
connected.
just everyone is super connected. So that's definitely a part of my vision too. And just, oh my God, I just have so many visions for myself. Like I was saying earlier, like I'm in school for business right now, but then just doing this podcast makes me so happy, and just like content creation and being creative. And so I really want, like, in the vision to tie everything together somehow is the vision and travel and do it all in Italy. But it's like, you can't plan all that out. You just kind of have to have a vision.
That is exactly. I'm on the same page. Like,
you know,
I think people ask me like, "What's your 5-year plan?" And obviously, there's plans for some business stuff and career paths. But to me, it's like personally, the next few years, I want to be able to, from the inside out, like be one entity. In the sense, I have this 9 to 5, I have this business side of me, I have this music side of me, I have this family side. I'm like, how can I connect all of these and just be and exist as one?
Right. You shouldn't have to choose one thing.
Right.
You know, if you feel like it's good to have a ton of passions rather than not know what you're passionate about. Yeah. So you have to somehow like channel all of that into something that makes sense.
Have you ever found anything that you've like gotten to that level? Have you felt at a moment where you're like, this is, I'm fully in one place. I'm able to be what I want. Like, this is a taste of my vision.
I feel like I've had like small little snippets of like, wow, like I feel like genuinely happy right now. And like, this is like my place, but I haven't found something that like ties all those things together. Just taking it into the business side of things, like in certain sales environments when I'm just like doing my thing, like being a businesswoman, I'm like, wow, I'm in my element right now. Yeah. Like, I know I truly like it.
I feel like that's like the wealth. Like, wealth to me is like being in your element, with your people,
of course,
in the place you want to be.
Money motivation
it's like,
is a big thing for me too.
Is it?
Yeah. Well, I just like, it's not like I want to ever be so rich where I'm spending money on unnecessary things and like flaunting my money or anything like that, but just being able to afford the life that you want and not have to deal with the burden and the stress of living paycheck to paycheck. I just want to be comfortable, and it's just such a good feeling when you make money for yourself doing something that is like something that you believe in, and then being able to like afford the life that you want.
Yeah.
I'm not a materialistic person at all, but just like,
you guys, it makes
but
you
just being able to like purchase my flight to Italy. I'm like, wow, I did that for myself, and like I'm here, and I'm like living on my own, and just it's just an independent like feeling that I like to have.
Yeah, I love like like generating like an income, and then spending it on an experience that you'll never lose is the best.
It's like the best place to put money.
Yeah,
you know, things that actually make you happy. With all of that, do you feel like it is possible to kind of have it all, or do you feel like there needs to be some sort of balance when it comes to enjoying the present but also planning for the future? Like, do you need to make sacrifices for that, or can you have all of that and balance it?
I think there's definitely sacrifices to be made, and I think they're usually personal habits or relationships. Like, again, I think that's like wealth. Like, I think when you can achieve that level of feeling fully in your element with your people and the place you want to be, I think to me that's like, all right, I've made it. That's when I know I've made it.
Right.
And, like, again, I get glimpses or tastes of it, and that's my motivation. But I think it's possible, and that's like the optimism I have, and I hope I keep that hope, because if not, then what
I know you've got it right. I feel like it's definitely possible. I think it's difficult. It's not easy. I think an easy way around it is making, you know, quick sacrifices in the moment. But I think holding off on those and just, you know, seeing what is possible. Like, can I have it all? Like, you kind of got to try it out and then really be smart about the sacrifices you're making and what's worth it. It's really all a learning lesson, I feel.
Yeah, I think everything comes with like a pros and cons too, and like weighing those. Obviously, I'm not going to sacrifice some things, but these I think will help me get here. It's just a matter of that balance.
Yeah. I feel like you can't be too quick making decisions ever. Like, a pros and cons is always the best way to go. Just being smart about your decisions, really.
That's a hot take. It's just do, don't think, or is it you're definitely a...
I think sometimes you can get lucky with do, don't think, but I feel like sometimes when you don't get lucky, that's when you have those regrets. And I feel like at least if you've thought it out, like, you don't feel so regretful, where you know, like, you made the best decision you could for yourself.
Yeah.
So I feel like for me, I'm always really thinking about a decision before I make it. But for some people, it's so easy to just, you know, do, don't think, and then they kind of just get lucky in a way, and they feel happy. And so I feel like it really depends on the person. I mean, how is it for you?
It's a balance. It's a blend. I think there's
kind of a blend.
Yeah.
It depends. Yeah. I'd say it's a blend for me too in some ways. Things that aren't as serious, I kind of just do, don't think. You know, you can't overthink everything, but more serious matters, I gotta think about it.
Some consideration. Yeah. I think the biggest lessons and like advice that I've been given is just, again, the considerations of the like consequences.
Right.
What are you willing to accept? And like, are you willing to accept this? Then do it. If not, then don't do it. And like, it comes down to how big is this? Is it a small problem? Is it a big problem? And like, just moving on that, I feel like has gotten me very far.
Yeah.
Just simply on that. And
I know. It's simple, but it's like difficult.
Yeah.
So
in the moment when your blinders are on, it's like, yeah, it is hard to make those calls. But
yeah. But then you look back and you're like, it wasn't as big of a deal as I thought it was.
Yeah,
it's just tough in the moment.
Yeah, I don't know. Do you find yourself like doing anything specific to like ground yourself in that moment, or Like when you have a moment you need to make a decision, do you have like a process, or is it just different every time?
I feel like I can't make the decision in like a high stress state of mind. So sometimes I have to just stop thinking about it and come back around to it, depending on like how quickly the decision needs to be made, of course. I would say like once I get into a more calm state of mind, I really just like, I do love a pros and cons. I love to weigh the pros and cons of things and think about the consequences. And that's really everything that goes into it. I guess I would also like seek out opinions from people that I feel like are biased and I can trust, but I really do try to just get those opinions, but still kind of make my own decision.
Yeah. So to the regulars, write down pros and cons.
Pros and cons list.
That's
get them
it.
going. Run
Just
them up.
Keep it simple for your analysis paralysis. I found myself there many times. Like,
yeah,
there's a huge menu, so many options.
Oh my God.
What am I gonna eat? I want it all. Like, what are you gonna choose?
So true. It's so true.
That's life. That's life.
That is life. A big menu is what life is. Thinking about today's society, do you feel like we're more driven by having instant gratification versus long-term success? And maybe you personally, like, how do you feel about that?
I think it's designed that way. I think especially here, and I think that's why the vision for me is Spain, because when you leave this place, it like cuts the times in half. Like it's nothing is on that time that you feel that like that clock, that internal clock. Everything's like you got to go.
Everything here is go.
And I appreciate it sometimes, but when you have contrast and you have the experience of we're here, like let's siesta
for real,
siesta, and like let's take a nap, like let's go, let's just live,
and
just
that was the biggest change from here to there, was like they just live. And we just are always looking ahead, and they're just truly in the present. And so I definitely feel like a lot of people are driven by instant gratification, myself included sometimes. And so it is like that escape that helps you to not always be that way, I feel.
So I'd say the biggest tip, buy a plane ticket out of the country.
We're giving great advice here. Pros and cons
Step
list,
one.
get a plane ticket. We'll make a whole list. We'll post it.
And I think it's on every level, like starting from like Ubers, walking. Nobody walks here. I mean, there's obviously people. Don't come at me for that one.
Some people going for a hot girl walk, but not a lot of people.
It's just like, all right, we'll call an Uber. You know, like Amazon. Amazon's great. Love my
we love it.
But it's definitely like creating this like as just click and go. Like click and go. This is what I want. I can get it next day, same day, like that. There's no like process and reward. It's just all like right here in front of you. You can get whatever you want.
Yeah.
And it's definitely impacted me on like how I move and how I operate, and like reframing that has been part of the challenge. Like when you start a business, you're starting from scratch. There's no next day Amazon delivery.
Yeah, for your business, right?
I wish there was.
Oh my God.
I think the small business owners will get that one. But I think you really humble yourself when you make something and you realize, okay, this is going to start from the bottom.
Right. I honestly never even thought about like Uber, Amazon, things like that, just being like small little looks into instant gratification. Yeah. Like I didn't even use those when I was in Italy because my mind wasn't wired like that to need that instant gratification, where it's like a daily thing here. I'm like, oh, it's simple. It's the easy way. Like,
it's
so just something so small like that to think
it's
about.
On every level. It goes up and up and up.
Yeah.
And obviously like to social media, like all of that stuff you see is like what you want to see. It's right there. Just open your phone. Everything's at the touch of your fingertip.
It's crazy.
And it's scary. It's kind of scary.
It's kind of scary how like much lately I've been relying on things like ChatGPT, like just ways of living that like even in high school I wasn't like used to. It's just everything's changing so quick here.
How do you feel about that? Is it
It's like once you use it, it's kind of like, how do you even go back to your old ways when there's such a simpler way of doing things, you know? That's like the tough part about it. But sometimes I want to live that simple life, and I feel like it's hard to do that here in this environment where everyone else is going so fast paced.
Yeah, like you have to keep up. It's the sink or swim.
Right.
Yeah, Uber Eats. I'm the guiltiest man on this one. Everybody.
See, I've really never been about that. Gosh. Like every once in a while, desperate measures.
I got the Uber Pass. Highly recommend.
Oh, God.
Oh no.
Oh,
Okay.
no.
I love to cook, and that's like that's like rebuilding the process.
Good.
You go get your groceries. You have every ingredient you need. You know, you do all your things and cook it.
You know what you're eating.
Beautiful. Love it.
Do you know what you're eating when you order Uber Eats?
Like you don't really know.
No.
Yeah, it just shows up, and who knows? How
Who
it got
knows?
there. I mean, shout out to the Uber One drivers. Dating apps is like a definitely instant gratification.
That's
because
crazy to think about. Yeah.
think about it. How in like 50 years ago, how would you meet 50 girls in like 5 minutes? Like,
Yeah,
there's
no.
so many people on those apps that you're easily connected to by just tapping.
So
And
true.
like what? You'd have to write a love letter and like
Right.
like,
Yeah. You have to
like,
actually meet that
you'd
person on
actually,
your own terms.
like,
but
church or like I don't know.
I know. Now you got me thinking on more apps.
Yeah,
Like,
no, I'm saying.
I feel like apps on their own, phones on their own, everything is designed for instant gratification.
Yeah, it's engineered this way, and that keeps you in like a consumer. Like, oh, now you want it. Like here it is. Like as quick
Right.
as you can get it.
Thankfully, the podcast is not designed for instant gratification. This is like on your own time. You can chill. You can slow your life down and watch.
You can't
But-
convince the regulars, can you?
Like,
Cut
please
it,
stay on social
cut it,
media for
cut
this
it.
purpose. But
I know.
honestly, no dating apps, Uber Eats,
Yeah.
Amazon.
Life, I feel like it's becoming more convenient, and it's like taking away the process of
Mm-hmm.
the reward. I was reading this book, and they're saying that there's more dopamine in the process of getting a reward than the actual reward.
So true.
And so what if you cut that out, what are you doing to the
I
process?
feel like the reward is just so short term
And then
at this point now. It's like, yeah, you're happy you got it, but you don't really think about it much longer after that because
Right.
what'd you really do to get it? You know?
yeah, it's like
What was the book?
it's called my
It's
God.
okay if you don't.
cut.
Just reads too many books.
No. It's
We'll insert
it's
photo.
in my car.
We'll insert photo.
Yeah. This book.
This book. Okay. The book will be there. Sorry,
Yeah.
listeners, you will never know what the book is.
Yeah, no. It's taking away from the experience, I feel,
Mm-hmm.
that helps you keep present. And I'm like, well, whatever happened to the simple pleasures?
I know.
What are the little
Really?
things?
And like, do you think we'll ever get that back?
Yeah, I think so. I think our generation is realizing and we're becoming aware.
I
Of what's happening?
agree a little bit. Like, I feel like it's so hard to turn back, but I feel like there has been a point now that like people are becoming a lot more aware of it.
Yeah, I feel like it's like,
It's like that.
there's some stuff I like when I do open social media. I'm like, there's no saving this.
Yeah,
But-
right? It's crazy.
But I think there's definitely people who I've met in real life, and I'm like, okay,
You're like, there's hope
there's
for
hope.
the world.
There's hope.
I think there are a lot of people like kind of taking on the whole mindfulness trend now and just like, I don't know, trying to stay true to their identity
Yeah.
and like things like that are starting to trend. There's those people out there that are trying to throw in some mindful practices and everyone's just got to
Yeah.
get in the loop, you know?
Yeah, being mindful is like, it's really hard. I think
It's hard. It is overlooked by a lot of people.
Yeah, I think it's like, and especially if it's taboo to you, like there's
Mm-hmm.
no reason you would do it or start it, and if nobody ever shows you what that even is,
Right? Like, how do
Yeah.
you even know?
it's
So
scary. It's scary.
it's hard.
It's so crazy how easy it is to get everything you want.
I
and-
know. I just think back to like just my grandparents or like people who would look at this and be like, this is an insane
Crazy.
way of living. It's just been so different just from, you know, only a few years of life.
Yeah, they're like, they thought we'd have flying cars and stuff by
I
now. And I'm
know.
like, we don't, but we have
Don't, but
everything
it's
else.
like,
we, have,
getting there. We're definitely getting there.
we have everything else.
but
I
it's
feel
definitely
like.
a whole new life. It
Yeah.
is. It's crazy. So I'm like, what are my kids going to have?
Mm.
Flying cars, you know?
I don't think we'll get there yet.
I
I
don't
don't know.
know.
I feel like I've seen how people drive on the road. There's no
And
way they'll allow
yeah,
that.
it would be pretty crazy. But yeah, life's moving fast.
So that pace is definitely set by the instant gratification for me. Like, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but especially in like the high salary cities, I feel like it's even faster.
Oh yeah.
I went down south a few times and it's pretty chill.
Yeah.
I'm like, I could get used to this kind of life.
There's definitely I know like we've had like the Europe experience and like that to us right now is like the most chill place on earth. But there's totally places like in the States that have a different way about life, I think. And even just like the difference of being in the actual city itself, like city of Boston, New York, to just like the suburbs, like is just so drastically different.
I know. I think we have to stay here because I don't think Europe really wants us.
I know. They probably don't. Like, it's really a dream, but I don't know.
They're like, please stay in America. They're like, we don't want
get the tourists out.
Yeah. It's interesting being a tourist, but I try to like travel when there's somebody local, and that really gives you like a experience that I feel you can't get as a tourist.
Right. 100%.
But definitely like the South of America. I mean, it's slower pace. Like I feel like simpler life. And I like that too. That's the mindfulness battle. Is really getting rid of the instant gratification and becoming aware of like, how do I get this like in the right way?
Yeah.
UMass is a bit kind of rural, right?
A little.
Okay, so I'm in like a more city area.
Okay, definitely not. It's not really city at all.
So I could easily walk to the grocery store.
Yes.
But if there's like any, sort of inconvenience, like I'll just DoorDash it or the grocery order.
Because you can.
Because I can. And my roommate, he's from Ireland. He's like, he can't comprehend. The European mind cannot comprehend it. It's the funniest thing.
I even think about like kind of going back to the ChatGPT thing, like to be real, I feel like a lot of people use it for school now. And I think back just to high school when like everything was on paper. There was no such thing as an online exam. Obviously, like COVID changed a whole lot of things in terms of things being online and making things instant gratification at that time. But in high school, it's like I never needed anything online. Like I was so used to just taking my stuff on paper. All my notes were on paper, this and that. And now it's like I look back and I'm like, how did I do that?
Yeah.
If by choice, I would just never go back to that way because I have everything online. It's just simpler. It's quicker. It just blows my mind how I even could live a life that way before, but it wasn't even that long ago.
Right. I appreciate it, but I'm also like, I would definitely have appreciated this. I don't know. It's like that little.
It's just because like habits are like such a quick thing to latch onto. Even living in Italy, it's like I was falling into just mindful habits there. Yeah. That I just kind of lost when I came back home,
Quick, I bet, real quick too.
Yeah.
Is there anything that you still, like a habit that you still have from your travel abroad experience that you feel keeps you mindful?
I feel like not really a habit, but it made me so much more like appreciative and like present with certain things. When I was there, for instance, this is kind of a stupid example, but I would collect like the business cards of like all the restaurants and like everything I went to. And I found myself like still doing that when I came home. And at first I was like, Reese, like this place doesn't matter. Like this is like your hometown, like deli that like you've been going to like forever. Like you don't need the business card, but like just being more like aware and like appreciative of like where I am, like places I'm going to, I feel like is something that has been hard to like get out of habit of. And I don't really like want to have to get out of that habit, but I guess it just doesn't make sense to do here sometimes.
Matthew McConaughey, he has like this cool audiobook called Green Lights, and his like view on people is like related to a car and the bumper stickers. And he's like, you could tell a lot about a person by their bumper stickers on their car. And he's like, what are your bumper stickers in life? And it's so like true. I feel like little things like your habits and the little things that you carry are your bumper stickers, and it's like I like that. If you had a life car, what would your bumper stickers be?
Well, of course there'd be a camera on there.
Okay.
A business suit. There'd be some sort of like smiley face or sun. An Italian flag or some sort of like Italy symbol. All my favorite things.
It's something to think about.
Something to think about. Maybe I need some bumper stickers. What would yours be?
That's I think for me it's definitely music. Something that reflects music and family. You would see like my dogs on there, my boys.
Maybe a paw print, a couple paw prints. Your boys, are they tuning in?
Definitely that, some sort of globe. I have this cool globe, like a paper globe, and it has these pins on it.
Oh, like a globe of like the earth.
Yeah, and every time I travel somewhere,
I put a pin. That's so cool.
And it makes you zoom out on how big the world is.
How big the world is. I got a travel notebook as a gift for when I was going abroad, and like the first page of it is like the world map, and it was like color in like all the little spots of the map, like as you travel. And I was doing that, but it was like the smallest tiny. I was like, I'm making no progress. Like
we gotta go.
I'm like, I've been to 6 countries now in this like 4 months, and I'm like, wow, it's not even half the world. It's crazy.
Reese the regular.
Reese the regular.
On the go.
On the go.
Abroad.
No.
Would you do this? Would you do like a travel podcast? Like a
Oh, that would be so cool.
Would that be it? Would that be it for you?
That would be really cool. I film a new episode in a new place every time. That could be cool. Or maybe we're thinking about something. Maybe we're just gonna sit here and brainstorm for the rest of the episode. There's so much to think about, and the world is so big.
Have you developed any skills that like you feel keep you out of losing that thought? Because sometimes when I think about how big the world is, I go crazy. I'm like, what is this all word? Like,
yeah, like to just kind of stay like
it's just this
calm in a way.
This calmness in that the fact like you're just this speck. And
I feel like that is the calmness. Like we're just a speck on the earth. It's not that serious.
It's not that deep.
You know, that's been like I've been so recently like just a no cares mindset in a good way. Like I care about people and about things that matter, but just the little things, like just going for it lately. I don't know. I've had like this extra motivation in my life, but I feel like it's because we're just a speck and like everything's simpler than it seems, even though we're talking about some difficult things here. It's like it really is. We figure it out somehow, some way. And that's kind of how I calm myself down. Yeah. You know?
Yeah, I know. Because I'm like, whenever I book a flight, it hits me. And I'm like, oh my.
I know. It's like a crazy thing. But then like, I think about how I traveled to 6 different countries in 4 months. And I'm like, it was a lot simpler than that sounds. Like, I was just going and enjoying life. And like, it wasn't stressful. It's just a flight. Yeah. I feel like people think of like a flight as like a big ordeal. But I feel it's a plane instead of a car.
Traveling changes you. It does.
Everyone needs to travel. I've probably talked about travel in like all my episodes in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
But like it changes you as a person. You got to get out there. There's so much out there.
That's that.
Yep.
Wrap that up.
I feel like we're going into like a lot of different topics here, but like it all really does relate to like just passions and like figuring it out, because there's just that much to life to figure all that out, you know?
I have so many side quests. It's ridiculous.
You gotta have side quests.
No, I
say
know.
this to everyone, you gotta have the side quests, the side hustles. You can't, you know, you gotta experience it all.
I'm trying.
In a short time.
I have multiple visions, and sometimes I think, you know, they seem a bit more extreme or reasonable. Like, who's to tell? Like, who's to say like this is a crazy vision or not? But like, obviously that artist, like I want to be a rock star, you know, like I want to be like on stage, I want to perform, I want people to hear my music and like share that with people. But when it comes to production for like monetary reasons versus like the actual art itself, was like really hard to like manage, and it stopped becoming a thing because I liked doing it, and it was for like, how can this make me money, and how can this be a product, and I didn't like when it started bleeding into like a business.
I feel like a lot of artists and kind of people in that similar space fall into that trap. Yeah. So I feel like that's very common. So that's tough.
I'm just letting it be, and I make music, and it's like a nice release. Like I was saying earlier, just like a physical and mental activity that I connect with, and I make some cool songs.
And I feel like that's what the podcast is for me too. Like a lot of times people will be like, oh, like, what are your like statistics on it, and like, you know, your audience, like how's it going? And I'm like, I don't really check that stuff all that often, because it's really not my main focus. You know, if I want to drive this somewhere at some point, of course I would, but like it's just fun. It kind of like just is a mindset thing for me. It gets me in a good place. So you can't get caught up in all that stuff, and it's hard with like mass media and everything that's out there.
I know, that's the thing. It's these side quests, like when you're in it, you're having a good time, and then you open Instagram.
Yep.
You see 50 other people doing it.
Right,
and like, what does this make? Like, it just makes you feel little.
You feel little. You're like, how am I going to stand out when there's everyone else doing it out there?
Do you face that often with your...
Yeah. I feel like, well, not even specifically just with this, but just so many different things in life that like other people are also doing, you know, and just seeing that out there, because you see everything out there. Like, it's hard to find something no one's done before at this point, especially when everything's online. So I feel like that's always a battle, is like feeling like, how am I going to stand out? You got to make it a positive battle, you know, of like getting creative and having fun with it versus like putting yourself down and comparing.
Yeah, I feel like that's the biggest struggle is like you want to share what you do, but you fear the repercussions of like the feedback and like being open to feedback, but also being open to the idea that not everybody's going to like this and never everybody's going to agree with you. And I think once you get past that, you're like invincible. And
you have to get past it. I feel like that's such a big part of my life. Like from when I was little, I had a YouTube channel. Like,
did you? This is nothing new. This is
nothing new. I've always been like content creator, putting my life out there, like sharing everything. And like, it scares me sometimes. I'm like, if certain things I'll post, I'll be like, oh, like, you know, I wonder if someone's going to like make a comment about that. But like, it's things that like I like to post and I'm passionate about. And even starting this podcast was like so scary. Like when I put that first episode out there, I like hid. I'm like, no, my family like had it on the big screen. I'm like, no, like I'm scared. Yeah. But like, it's just, you kind of have to have that confidence at some point to put stuff out there that you truly believe in. And getting back to the YouTube thing, that I posted a video of myself when I was in like 4th grade or something like that, singing Adele, an Adele cover, Fire to the Rain.
There we go.
On YouTube. That was my first YouTube video ever.
Yo, here's the link, guys.
The link is not there because at one point, you know, I cared what other people thought and I took it down. Yeah. But I would never do that with any of my videos now. So you get past it. I had another YouTube account with my friends. I had one with Brooke called Twinspiration.
It's pretty creative.
Twin Inspiration. I did everything. And now I have my Instagram and I have this. And so I feel like I've always been putting things out there. But that's not to say I don't second guess things I put out there a lot and say like, oh, like, what are people going to think about this, you know?
Do you have any, like, what do you do when you're second guessing yourself? Like, what do you...
Speck on the earth.
Yeah, that's it. That's it.
Speck on the earth. I mean, there's not much you can do other than just like, you really... And I mean, sometimes it is like putting social media away. Like sometimes I'll put something out there and I just like... You know, you can't just like sit there and wait for the comments and the likes, and like you just put it out there for your own good and you go about with your life and get outside. One thing that was really good for me at one point was doing a social media detox. I don't know if you've ever done this before.
Oh yeah.
I did it for like almost a month. I got rid of everything and I just like focused on myself. I was doing sales at the time and like had a big sales competition and like just really put my all into that, sold a lot, like did a ton of other stuff, worked out. Like I was just so productive during that time. And it also just like helped me realize that there's just so much more out there than like, you know, media.
I call it the dopamine detox.
Okay. And I love that.
Yeah, it was refreshing. I think
it is. It's so hard to like get back into it. Like I really want to do it again. I did it last winter. It was like literally the month of January that I did it. So maybe we'll have a 1 year reunion dopamine detox. But yeah, like I deleted everything and I was just so productive.
For me, it was like, I don't necessarily like having like the all or nothing mindset, but it was like, I'm going to do this for 90 days, see how it goes, what it does to me and what I can do in 90 days. And it makes you feel like a completely new, like something is rewired here.
Something's rewired. Do you feel like you ever struggled with like not being in the know and in the loop all the time in terms of things?
Huge part of it. That's why I came back to it with let's find the balance in this. And because like again, the friends in Europe, a lot of people use Instagram to stay connected, and like, that's what it's for me now. It's to stay connected to my people. And
exactly.
It's how do I balance my activity on here to just keep it to that, and maybe some like, content that I do enjoy. But when you realize how much time it consumes, I think that's when you're like, okay, this is something I have to think about. And I have this cool app called Opal. Check it out.
Opal? Never heard of it.
It's like screen time monitoring app.
Okay.
But it's like it makes you mindful, and it will pause your applications that you choose. Yeah. It gives you like a report on how much time you'd spend in your life on this app if you continue with this average. And it's like,
it's crazy. Yeah. Even just like some days when I get the screen time report, I'm like, wow, that's just not.
It's gone. Never getting that back.
Like we can't be doing that all the time. One of the first times I ever did a social media detox, I think it was only for like 2 weeks or something. Like it wasn't a crazy like month-long thing. But I deleted TikTok and everything else. But that was like the one thing I didn't feel the need to get back because I realized that had no purpose other than to take my time. Instagram, I can message people. Snapchat, I can message people. Like those were the things that were like I felt like I was missing. Like I wasn't in the loop.
Mm-hmm.
But it wasn't about like being in the loop on people's posts. Like I liked not being like having to worry about that all the time. So it helped me realize like what's actually like good for me in terms of social media and what is just wasting my time or like killing my vibe, you know?
Yeah. For me, it was okay. Like I started with the social media, but then I realized I was like spending time on other apps or something else that kind of gave that, and I was like, what? I can't.
Yeah.
And so I put it on like the whole thing. So I'll like have a funny question if I'm like on a date or if I'm like talking to like a person. I'm like, what's your screen time? Like,
oh my god, that's a crazy question.
Just start doing it. Try it. Like ask someone and be like,
that
what's
could tell
your
you a lot
average
about a
screen time?
person.
It tells you a lot.
Mine is definitely so far down in like comparison to how it was like a long time ago, which is great. I think really it is just like I don't use a lot on my phone. Like it's really just Snapchat, Instagram, like. And my camera, like I'm always filming everything, which I love doing, but I do love to stay present too. So that's like a balance that I try to find. TikTok was the one thing I'd never got it back since that day. I haven't had it in probably like 3 years now. And but you're like, are you disagreeing with?
No, I'm one of those people. I'm one of those people who don't have it, and like
it's rare. Like everyone has it, but like I mean, yeah, of course I'll scroll through Instagram Reels sometimes and like things that I'm passionate about I like to watch, but I don't like to get caught up in that. And having an app just for that was like not good for me at all.
If it's not TikTok, it's Instagram. If it's not Instagram, it's whatever app.
Everything's starting to overlap.
And it's scary.
I think everyone needs a dopamine detox just to kind of figure some other things out with themselves.
It's a reflection point. It
is.
Okay.
So much more than that. Yeah.
I also like the screen time. I'll ask somebody what the screen time is. And like this one's a little bit more intimate, but you'll be like, you can use this to like gauge a person's like how they are, right?
Yeah.
Be like, how's your laundry? I swear. Listen.
God,
because
we're
when
giving dating tips now, guys.
When things are wild, right? Like when you are avoiding or you're busy and whatever you're doing, your laundry basket's getting full. Like I feel like if you let that go, like that kind of factors how life's going, right? And so for me, it was like that's the screen time. Was like the more and more I'm spending time on my phone, what am I actually avoiding? Like what am I?
Right.
My laundry. I'm not doing like because I'm avoiding this thing here, and like that's what it was. And people don't get that opportunity because they're so engaged on the content.
Yeah, and I feel like that's such a true thing with like the laundry, but like people will say like, oh, like the way your room looks kind of is a reflection of like your brain, like in the time, like if you're juggling so many things and like you have like this brain fog, like your life and your room are disorganized. Hectic. Is a thing. Yeah. Like everything's hectic, and so
clean your room, do your laundry.
Clean your room, do your laundry.
Put it on the list.
Your life's gonna get together, you know.
Put it on the
list. And get your screen time down. Pros and cons list. Get a plane ticket. You know, all those things.
I think it's at least just trying. Like I think you don't have to necessarily be like you could hate the screen detox, like the screen time. The Instagram detox, like that's hard.
It's hard. There were days where I was like, all right, like should I just stop doing this? It's kind of stupid. But then other days where I was like, this is great.
Yeah, it's literally does something to your brain with the dopamine. And I think once you get past like the second week, it's literally like nicotine. Like it's like a
it's an addiction.
It's an addiction. And
your phone is an addiction.
And balancing that has been like almost like a cheat code. If you can do that, I think you create that space to like your opportunities to explore your passions. And I think everybody should have that chance. I don't know.
Guys, 2025, we're all going on a dopamine detox, all right?
Try it. See
Put it in the calendar. See what it does. You got to try it.
Yeah. At least think about how much time you spend on it. I think that's what I would recommend because I feel like it's hard to like in this world of like the mass information and like the social media, I think it's hard to necessarily ignore it. Like or just completely cut it out.
Who really is checking their screen time all that often, you know? I feel like it's something that, you know, maybe after listening to this, go take a look and just see where it's at and see if that's something that you, like, feel good about, you know? What if it says, like, 20 hours on there? Like, you might want to rethink some things. But just, like, being aware of it, not necessarily, like, making giant changes, but, hey, maybe let's get the screen time down a little. It doesn't have to be a full detox. Baby steps.
Yeah, it's hard. I think like my piece of advice that I was given that I like to share is like again monitoring like what you're doing within the platforms and it could be positive. Like you could have like inspirational content ideas or you could have motivation, you could have gym stuff. Like I think positive content like is good with like mindfulness of how much you're consuming, because when you eat too much, you get a stomach ache, or you drink too much, you throw up. But like people don't think about what happens when you consume too much.
Too much, yeah.
And like if you're never given a chance to think and step back and look in the mirror and be like, okay, like that you never throw up in your mind, but you'll reap the repercussions of, you know, mental illness and maybe depression.
So
and
true.
It goes down and down and down. And I think that's like how I view it.
Yeah.
And like I walk through life like with that thought in my mind.
That's like a great thought. Like I've never really thought of it that way, but it's so true. It's like there's no physical like result of overindulging in social media, so not a lot of people notice it until it's like more a mental thing.
If you know there's no real like timeline or consequence, like do you procrastinate until you like last minute, or are you like a type of person that is good at, this is what I got to do, I'm going to do it, and then I can go?
I'm pretty good at like not procrastinating. I only like occasionally find myself like just so stuck at times, but for the most part I feel like I've always been like all right, get it done, on to the next type of person.
Yeah.
But some people are big procrastinators. Like you could have so much motivation, but like that's just, it's one thing that's hard to get by, you know?
No, that's good.
That's what it is for you, is it?
I think it's definitely something I have to put more energy into. It's not just like I'm on autopilot and I can just do it and do it. It's like for me, it's like like I'll get a call from somebody. They're like, "You want to go grab food?" I'm like, "Okay."
Yeah, there's definitely days where I'm doing everything except for the one thing that like is important and that needs to get done. But if there's a day where like that's all that needs to get done and I have nothing to procrastinate with, I'm like, all right, like let's get it done. We'll feel so much better after.
I never say no to a good meal. I'm guilty. You caught me.
I'll never ask you to go out and get a good meal when you're busy. Don't even worry.
No, it's hard. Like, obviously, who wants to choose the difficult task? And there's like the whole book and audiobook of like Eat the Frog. It's like doing the hardest thing first and getting that done, then everything else will be easier.
If it's gonna take you 5 minutes, just do it, and then anything else after that, like, comes next.
I know 5 minutes is a long time. There was like this mindfulness activity. A friend of mine was like, just take 300 seconds. Like if you break it down to 300 seconds, like just 300 seconds is all you need. Just don't do anything but just sit and breathe for 300 seconds. And you're like, it's really not that long, but it's like a long time. When you sit there and count to 300, you're like, everything just slows.
Everything slows down. It's like the difference of like trying to get something done in a minute versus like trying to plank for a minute. It's like the plank feels like it's like the longest time of your life, but trying to get something done, it's like the clock is going by so fast. It's like,
it's like if you really think about it, like you have 5 minutes is a long time to do something. Yeah,
right.
Like you can do it. And like, that was a big one. I did that. Like if I can do it now, I'm gonna just do it.
Just do it, you know?
And then I'll go get dinner.
Then we're gonna do it. Okay. And wrapping all of this up, what is like the biggest like one piece of advice you'd give to listeners right now to, you know, kind of deal with the chaos of life, but also stay informed and stay mindful, just tying all of this together?
I would focus on self-preservation and what you can go to sleep with at night. That you did this today, and this makes you feel full and wholehearted. Like you chose to do this. This is what you wanted to do. You're gonna do it. Like I think focusing on that first, rather than what do they want to do, or what is this person asking me to do, and really preserving yourself and taking those steps that you need because you need it, and doing that first, and finding confidence in that. No is no.
Yeah.
Like, I can say no. Find the power in no, and you'll realize how much time you have.
Right. I think just, tuning out like all the other expectations that are out there. And, you know, even if you are trying to make the decision for yourself and it feels hard, just knowing in the end that like you made that decision for yourself is better than knowing that you took someone else's and it goes wrong. Yeah. So I feel like that's where you get to start. And of course, not everything's going to go to plan. There's going to be obstacles, but all we can do is do our best. Yeah. I feel like we could talk about this topic for hours and hours, but we're going to cut it here and we're going to have Jalen back on. I feel like he's coming back on. So any final thoughts from you?
No, thank you again for having me. And I hope to be back soon. I really enjoyed it.
Yes. Let us know what you guys want us to talk about next, but tune in next time.
Yeah, happy holidays.
Bye, guys.
Be safe.